Welcome everyone to Pepperi's webinar on customizing your web storefront. My name is Meirav Biton and I'm the product training manager at Pepperi. I'm very happy to see so many of our customers and partners on this webinar today. It's a really big turnout, and this is what we know is a pressing topic for you, the B2B web channel for sales. I have Lior Goel, our senior project manager in our New York office, on the line as well. Do you want to say hello, Lior?
Hi, guys.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Thank you. He will be monitoring the questions panel throughout the session, and he may jump in also to impart some of his valuable knowledge during the session, so feel free, Lior. Everyone else, please type in any questions or comments while you're listening into the questions panel on the GoToWebinar control, and either Lior will chat back to you or we'll email you afterwards, whatever's needed. And of course, at the end, we'll have an open Q&A where we'll address the questions publicly to everyone. As usual, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll get a link to the recording, plus the slide deck, which contains links for every topic that I'll be covering straight to our how-to articles. So no need to worry, you'll have all the information at your fingertips at the end. The latest version of our web storefront contains some very useful updates and new features. There's been a great demand by our customers to learn about them. So let's dive right in and learn how to configure and customize the web storefront. First, I'd like to point out some general guidelines which are important to keep in mind with your buyers. And from our experience with configuring the storefront for our customers, we recommend configure the system exactly to your needs. Keep it simple without giving too many options to choose from, whether it's views to select from or too much information being displayed, too many searching options, pop-up notifications. Really keep it simple to avoid confusion and provide a clear experience for your buyer. Pepperi provides an extremely wide variety of configuration combinations, as you all already know if you're using Pepperi already for your mobile sales team or for your office staff, for another channel. Literally, there are dozens of options for almost every screen, and we provide that for you to select the best path for your buyer. So we actually believe that less is more. It's not provided to you for you to use all of it or as much as possible, rather to get to know it and then pick out the path for your buyer that's the clearest and the easiest, without, of course, depriving the buyer of any aspect of the ordering experience or any required functionality. So, bearing that in mind, keep it simple, less is more. Let's dive into the many different configurations. These are the topics I'll be reviewing today, starting from inviting, the first invitation, the first exposure your buyer will have to your storefront. How to customize that, how to make it engaging, branding, then of course the ordering process, the configurations in the order center, the shopping cart, payment, and the next steps for you as a Pepperi customer to get started using the new web storefront version, and some help and tips that we can provide to you for the configuration that's best for you. Some of the capabilities I'll show today require the latest web storefront version, and not all of you are currently set to use it. We're gradually rolling it out, although it's no problem to move you over if you want to use these capabilities. Of course, it's all available to you. All upgrades are free and available to and open to everyone. If you want to use these capabilities, we can move you over shortly. Anyway, all of you will be on this new version because we are gradually rolling it out. By the way, when I say new version, it's not something dramatic. You're not about to see anything that's drastically looking different than what you know in the web storefront. It's not something that changes the user experience in any way. It's simply referring to some additional functionality that you control whether to expose or not. So technically, you could have already been moved to the new version as of now, and you wouldn't even know it because you haven't configured and learned the new options that are available to you. If you want to know if you're already on the new version, just write to us in the Q&A and we can check that for you. Okay. The first step, of course, is inviting your buyers to the storefront by an email invitation. They need to be added as contacts to your accounts. And then you create contact lists and view those lists as an administrator from the web app. Let's go right into the web app. Okay, I'll be jumping back and forth between the back office, between the PowerPoint, and between the actual live demo that I'll be showing everything on a browser throughout this presentation. Okay, so let's take a look at the contact list. Here I am logged in. Okay, here in this browser, I'm logged into the Pepperi web app, app.pepperi.com, as an administrator user. As an administrator user, I have the contact lists available to me. Okay, those are not available on the devices. They're available on the web app to the admin user. In a minute, of course, I'll show you how to create them and how to make them available for the user. Let's click on the contact lists. I've labeled the button to say buyers just for an explanation. Okay, this is a list of all of my buyers, all of my contacts that have been uploaded either through integration or the CSV bulk upload. Each contact is associated with an account, and then they have their own fields of name, email, could be a role. There's also a field called is buyer, which is a Boolean field, a true or false. It indicates if the contact is actually already connected to the storefront, has received your invitation or not, okay? From this list is where you'll invite your buyers and manage your buyers. You can create multiple types of lists if you have many contacts and you want to group them by their role. For example, I have store employees and store managers, so I have like kind of 3 different types of contact lists. I can filter the list itself. Here, for example, I can say, show me only the customers that, the accounts that have buyers that are connected. Show me a list of those buyers only. So I filtered for is buyer equals to yes. Okay, let's clear that filter. Now, let's get to managing the buyers. So what can I do from this list? You can select buyers, either select them all or do one by one group selection, and then you're going to connect them to your storefront. Connect as buyer opens up the email that they'll receive, the invitation. Okay, so the email will be sent to those selected contacts. I'll CC myself here just so you can see what the branded email looks like when it actually comes through. This is a branded and a customized HTML email body. Okay, so it has it addresses the buyer by the first name. It has links. It has your brand image, colors, and then we will add the email and the password that the buyer will get when you use these tags. This is a very simple HTML to create. Anyone can create it and upload it. I'll show you simply where to upload the HTML file, and then every time your buyers get an invitation or a new password from you, they'll get this branded email. Okay, so once I hit done here, those 2 buyers I selected will be connected. This is a one-time display of their password. It's the only time you'll actually see it on the screen. We don't store it. You don't manage their password. You can reset a password for them, but they can do a forgot password or a reset password if they want from the login screen of studio.pepperi.com. So it's up to them to manage their password. So I've connected those 2 buyers. You can see here now they are checked off as being connected. If at any point a buyer wants to stop ordering or I want to take access away from a buyer, I can do a disconnect buyer, and then their account will no longer be valid. Even if they try to log in, they'll get a red message saying their account is no longer active. They won't get an email now, but you see now that they've been disconnected, they won't be able to log in. So that is my contact list. One more thing I wanted to show you in the contact list, which is useful. I'll just search for a contact that I know is active, a buyer that I know is quite active. Select the buyer, and then you can look at each buyer's log. The buyer's log shows you the last 10 times that the buyer interacted with our server, that they connected with our server. So whether they synchronized, sent an order. So the anytime they accessed our server, it's logged here. And you can see the type of client that they're using. So some of you may have your buyers using the mobile app. some maybe using a browser. So you can see web app means they connected from a browser. It'll say iOS or Android with the device name and ID and so forth with the last successful sync time. Okay, so that's some useful information for you. Let's take a look now at the Studio back office. I'm going to log in as the same admin user I was logged in there at the web app to the Studio, and in the settings, I'll go to my contacts area. Okay, under the contacts, you can create the contact lists. It's actually very intuitive. It's just like our activity lists or any other lists that you create in Pepperi. Let's take a look at the all contacts list that I have already here. Just give it a name. You can filter. I can filter by, just like you saw, I had some of the lists there, store employee. I was filtering by the role, the contacts role. So I can have the store employee or the store manager as one of the criteria for the list, and then I can have a list that's specific to that role and so forth. So basically creating the list, the general information, that's very intuitive. Then you have, of course, the configuration of the list view, which is the columns that appear in the list. Like I had the account name, the last name, first name, mobile phone, etc. So anything, you change around here. Like if I take out the mobile phone, go back and sync, just modify the list here. And like I said, adding the is buyer field is a handy tip to know which of my contacts are actually connected as buyers. Okay, so those are all my contact lists. Once I created the lists, then I have to assign them permissions. So I actually have to edit the profile. The default profile is the rep. You can use just the default because you're not going to have any other reps or buyers using these lists. It's just the admin that will use the default rep profile. And I've added all the lists I created. If I wanted to take away access, not display one of the lists, I can remove it or add it. And those will be the lists that are available once I click on the contacts button on the home screen. Speaking of the home screen, let's go to the company profile and add that contact button to the admin's profile, because that's the only profile that the contacts display for. And again, they only display on a browser. They don't display on a device, on a mobile device. So I'll edit the admin profile for the app home screen, and I'll make sure that the contacts button is positioned here in the layout. Okay, that's just, I'll just remove it and add it again to show you contacts. Okay, it's the contacts list. And then I actually renamed it as buyers just for convenience. Okay, so that's how this, that's here. I'm logged in as the admin, and that's how this button got here, and that's how all those lists are created. And that's how you manage and actually invite your buyers to the storefront. Okay, the next thing about the invitation is just one small option you have, which is using your own SMTP server to send the emails rather than getting it from Pepperi.com. So this is also something that it makes the invitation more personal and engages your customers more and may push them to use the storefront even more if they see that the email is coming from you. Okay, so you can do that. Again, let's go back to the back office here under company profile. Very simple. Put in the email settings, the server, the credentials, and the security mode, and then all the emails will go through your email server, and you can control the display name and the email that the messages are coming from so they can reply to you and so forth. So just another way to engage your buyer. Okay. Next is branding. The buyer is going to get the invitation and then go and log into your storefront. The home screen, of course, will show the background images that you can load. You can also select a main color for the shortcut button to match your branding colors. It doesn't have to be the Pepperi green. And I'm going to show you also the main bar, the top header bar customization that you can do yourself now with HTML very easily, relatively very easily. Back to the browser, I'm now going to show you the configuration where I'm logged in as a buyer. You see, before I was on a different tab logged in as an administrator. Now I'm logged in as a buyer. And I can see the buttons here are a bit different. The buyer profile can place a new order. They can view their orders. They can look at open orders. This is a shortcut to the activity list of their open orders. This is a contact form, which I'll talk about later. And this is an external link, marketing content or whatever external links you want to put on these buttons. Of course, the home screen branding, the background image, you can have a landscape image, and then you can, if I were to resize this window, okay, make it smaller, you can see that it's responsive, and now it's using actually the portrait image. So nothing is going to look stretched or squashed. You have a separate place to enter your landscape and your portrait size image, depending on the size of the screen. Okay, another thing that is pretty obvious here is you can see the top header bar customization here. This is a bar that I've written HTML for. It has my logo, it has the color I wanted, it has links on it. You know, this is pretty much a standard type of interface to have links on a top bar. They can link either to components of the storefront, so I can link straight to an activity list, to this home page. Okay, the links to the Pepperi components can be taken right from here, because the links are now the navigation is captured in the URL. So you don't have to, so you can actually put a link to any page on the Pepperi storefront here on the top. I also have an external link just to help, or to any external website. Something else that I've leveraged this HTML for is to embed my chat. Okay, I have a chat here, chat program that I use, and I've embedded that script for the chat in the HTML file of this header. So when the page loads, it also loads the chat. That's another way to engage your buyers, to make them feel more at home in the storefront, and hopefully encourage them to use it even more. Okay, so we have the main bar, we have the branding here, and we have the chat embedded. Let's take a quick look, because I don't want to spend too much time on this in the back office on the branding. Probably most of you are already familiar with this. So you have the storefront home screen area. This is the area where you load the background images, like I said, the landscape and the portrait image. And then you have on the bottom the main color. This is where you can choose the color or put in your RGB coordinates for the color of the shortcut button. Okay, the other buttons will be gray, but you can choose the color of that shortcut button. The secondary color has no effect on the storefront. Okay, it's only the color of this bar here up here on the admin, which it's just the back office, no one sees that. So choose the main color for the shortcut button, load your background images. Now, what about the HTML file? You need to load the file in the back office under configuration files. There's a new file type called web app customization. You load that file, and then you configure Pepperi to use that file every time the storefront loads. So first, let's load the file. So I'm going to add a file here called web app main bar customization. Sorry. Okay, let's just take a look at this one that I'm using right now. Okay, so it's select the file type to be web app customization, give it a name just for your reference, and then upload your JavaScript file or your HTML file. And now we have to actually instruct Pepperi to use that configuration. Okay, so I'm going to go under company profile. There's a new setting called web app main bar, and all I do is simply point to that file here. So what you see here is that you can actually have different profiles using different top main bar configurations. If you have some of your other profiles using the web version of Pepperi, let's say you had merchandisers, or let's say you had office staff, telesales, you can create a top main bar with different links, different color, different branding for each type of profile. And actually, where this is probably going to come in handy the most and have the biggest impact is later this year, we're going to be releasing buyer profiles. Buyer profiles allow you to group your buyers into different profiles or different types of anything you can configure for a Pepperi profile today, you will then, once we release the buyer profiles, be able to configure for your different groups of, or different types of buyers. Certain buyers, you want to use one type of transaction. Certain buyers, you want them to see a certain branding with the top main bar, a certain color with certain links. Other buyers will see a different main bar. Certain buyers will have certain actions in their workflow, while other buyers will have different actions. Some will pay, some will not pay. So all of that buyer profiles comes into play, and that's where this web app main bar customization by profile could be interesting, because you can have a different kind of branding or links or things showing for different types of buyers. But let's just take a quick look inside. Right now I'm just using the default configuration because I only have one type of buyer, and I have a bunch of different main bars that I've HTML files that I've written, and I've chosen this one for the buyers. Okay, so I've added it here, and that's the one that Pepperi is going to load, which is actually this bar here. When I'm logged in, you can see this bar here with this color and these links, and the chat, of course. Okay, this is just a regular JavaScript file. I can show it to you really quickly over here. This isn't going to be very helpful to anyone just to see the file, but you can download kind of like a sample template from our knowledge base and kind of work with that, or definitely if you have some programmers working on your site, then they can write whatever kind of bar that you need. Of course, our services department can also assist you with that. Okay, so that was the whole concept of branding, of familiarizing your buyer, making your buyer feel comfortable and engaged in your storefront. The next step is actually placing an order. So if you're using both Pepperi for your mobile sales teams and for your buyers, the best practice is to have a dedicated transaction type for buyers. So you can have a dedicated workflow, notifications, calculated fields that are dedicated for buyers as opposed to mobile users or office staff users. What I'll do now is start a real transaction with you in the storefront, going through step by step all the possible configurations, looking at multiple catalog options, filters, the order banner area, how to configure that, notifications and alerts, dynamic filters, and the filter tree. Okay, these are actually new features, brand new features, the filter tree and the dynamic filters. Okay, so over again now. We're going to switch. Here I'm logged in as a buyer to the storefront. So now I'm going to click on new order. And next, I'm brought to a screen with multiple catalogs. Now, you don't have to use multiple catalogs. You can have just one default catalog and jump right into the ordering process. However, if you do have a need to segment your products amongst your customers and say, okay, certain brands, certain products with this property or that property should be grouped in a different catalog, and only these customers can see this catalog with this special pricing per customer. So it allows you to segment your products across your customers, and also to add an additional component of pricing per catalog per customer. This is a standard feature of ours also for the mobile app, but if you'd like them to go in and have to select a catalog, you can do that. Otherwise, like we said, keep it simple, jump right into the default catalog. Keep in mind, though, that a transaction, an order, can be taken from one catalog at a time. So if they're ordering cosmetics, it's cosmetics order. If they're ordering skincare, it's the skincare order. They're not going to be able to mix products from different catalogs on the same order. Okay, I'm going to go into the cosmetics catalog, and here I have first what pops up is a notification, promotion notifying me select any 3 nail polishes for a fixed price. This is part of our new packages. It's a promotion that capability that we've released recently. You can have packages that are for a fixed price, or you can have packages that are like buy 5 products out of this list of products and then choose 1 free product out of another list. So those are the 2 types of packages that we've released, and what I'm doing here is just emphasizing that promotion for the buyer with a pop-up window. I'm going to hit OK on that, and that's a simple notification message in our workflow, very easy to implement, and you can just put HTML in there with images and format the text. What happened right now, if you noticed, I've been redirected to an order that's already been started. See, I already have some items in here, $398 worth of items, and it's telling me free shipping on orders of $400. You're $2 away from free shipping. Okay, how did I get to this order and why? It's because I've configured in my order to be brought to the most recent open order, to continue working on my most recent open order. This is what I've configured in my workflow. This is optional, of course, you don't have to do this, but I've chosen to do it in my workflow, and it's bringing me to the most recent open order. Something else that kind of jumps out at you at this order center is the order banner area. You can put a banner here. You can put different banners for different catalogs, different banners for different profiles, which is nice, you know, if you want to put text in there or an image with some announcement or something. You can also put any other field, any other Pepperi field in here. You know, you can put the customer name, you can put any field you want, organize it in the layout of this banner. And what I've added here is actually a calculated text string. It actually shows dynamic text based on the total of the order. So for example, if I are to remove an item from the order, you see this went up. It's now telling me you're $42 away from free shipping rather than $2. So this text is changing based on the total of my order. And that's quite a simple calculated string field. It's a custom field that you add. And not such a big deal to create it, and just set up a couple of if-then statements. If the order is reaching 400, give the amount that you are away from the free shipping. Now, once I go over the 400, you'll see it just tells me you've earned the free shipping on this order. Okay, so that's kind of a nice area to show some fields and a banner. The next thing is, of course, the order center views. Order center views, just like you already know in Pepperi, can be configured to show any images, item information. Right now, this is the medium view. Up here in this menu, you can change to grid line or any other view you've decided to make available. We recommend keep it simple. Don't make too many views available. You can configure which views are available here. I've configured two different views to be available. I have this grid line view, and I have the medium view. So if you just have one available, then this little icon won't even show up, and they'll just go right into the medium view. Okay, you can also configure the default view that the buyer is forced into when is brought to when they enter the order center. You may not want them to go to the last view they were on, which is kind of default. You know, if I left the order when I was in grid line view, next time I come in, my default is always going to be the medium view. This is the view I want my buyers to see when they log in. Another thing you'll notice is that I have this emoji field here that is my wish list. So if I click on the heart, it turns red, and that means that item has been added to my wish list, which is simply a filter over here. It's one of my filters. I have a lot to say about filters, but for now I'll just mention the wish list. And here you can see all the items that I've added. The heart has been turned red, the heart has been clicked on. That are my wish list for later reference, for later purchase. When I remove items, you know, it's dynamic. And by the way, it's carried from order to order. So the next time I log in to place an order, my wish list will be saved, and you can see those items that I removed are removed from the wish list. Okay, so that's kind of a nice thing in my layout. Another thing is the object menu. It's the details menu where I can drill down to see, for example, let's go to this item here. I can drill down to see the full item information. It's a full page where I can add any fields I want, any information about the item. I can add attachments, for example, like a PDF attachment, which I can click on to view the makeup manual guide or whatever kind of PDF attachments you want to provide more information, warranty information, videos that you load. This is just an example instructional video. So if you want to train on the road or show, give your buyers examples of using your products, you can attach those files here and show them the item information. If I enlarge the image, because we support up to 6 images per item, so if I enlarge the image, I can see the additional item images. Okay, this is kind of like the film strip view. Zoom in, up to 6 images per item. Okay, so that is the item information page and the multiple images. Okay. Another feature you can see here, which it's optional for you to provide, you can configure different sorting options. So the buyer can say, okay, sort the products for me. Actually, I'm going to switch to the grid line view for this sorting because it looks kind of nice in the grid line view. Sort the products by the last order date in descending order. So that means the most recently ordered products that I've been ordering will be on the top, and then as I scroll down, I'm going back in time. And it's kind of nice for the buyer to be able to sort in that way and to see, oh, okay, I ordered this recently, I want to order it again. Or, oh, wow, I haven't ordered this in a while. Let me order some of this product, or and so forth. So it's kind of nice to be able to sort the products. You can do it, for example, by a descending unit quantity, and then it will sort the products by the amount that you've ordered. The amount that the unit quantity that you've ordered in a descending way. So you can see all the items that you've ordered at the top. All kinds of fields by price, expensive items on top, expensive items on the bottom. So if you want to provide that capability, it's there. If you don't, and you don't configure that, then these arrows won't appear, and it'll be, kind of like a cleaner look over here. The menu you can configure here. I wanted to point out a small tip. If you remember that promotional pop-up that I had in the beginning, if the buyer just clicks OK and then it's kind of like, oh, what did that say? I missed that pop-up. So you can stick it here in the menu. Okay, it's kind of like a nice tip. It's like, oh yeah, I wanted to remember what the pop-up was telling me. So you can just kind of instruct your buyers that any of your notifications you can very easily stick them into the menu. They're just a notification action. You have the menu configuration. You add that action to the menu. Another small option I've added here is print preview. Print preview is not available in grid view. It's available only in the thumbnail views. So you can, people are a bit old-fashioned sometimes, and they want to print the pages of the catalog, so we have them set up in a nice print view. So I've given that option, which again, of course, is optional, and if you want to keep it simple, you don't have to use that. Now, before I go into the shopping cart for this order, I wanted to talk about filters, okay? You can see here, I have my main categories or my brands, like beauty, facial, great perfumes, hair, hand, and so forth. These are all of the brands. Within each brand, I have subtypes, like I have type eye, face, lip. Under facial cosmetics, I have face and lip. Under perfumes, I have men and women. These are types of products within this brand or main category. And then I actually have a third level of filtering, and this is due to our new filters which are available in a hierarchical tree layout. So you can set up filters and then literally just drag them into a tree layout and then go as deep as you need, as many layers as you need of filtering. So under each brand, I have the appropriate types, and then some of them even have a subtype. Okay, only the ones that have a subtype defined, the subtype will be created. For example, for nail polish, I have gel and non-gel. Obviously, for other products, I'm not going to have nail polish. I'm not going to have gel and non-gel. I'll have only for under this brand of shampoos, I'll have conditioners and shampoos. They don't have a third level, but this second level is relevant only to this brand. Now, that configuration is actually due to a feature in our new filters. Our new filters are, when you set them up in the hierarchy tree, they will only create filters for the main categories that are relevant. So based on the item data, if this brand does not have conditioners and shampoos, you will not see conditioner and shampoo under hand cosmetics. If this brand does not have nail polish, you'll only see face and lips. So these kind of new filters are first of all, the buyer will never encounter an empty filter. There will just not be such a thing, because the filters are created dynamically on demand based on the item data. If I were to add now 1,000 items to my catalog, upload into my Pepperi data 1,000 items, and I have some of them are facial cosmetics and they're not face and lip, they are eyes, okay? Under facial cosmetic, the eyes filter will dynamically be created. You no longer have to create explicit filters for explicit main categories. Filters can be dynamically created and they can be set up in a hierarchical tree. Now, I know what I'm saying is kind of high level abstract. I'm definitely going to go to the back office and show it to you. Just want to say one more thing. You can have a combination of these dynamic filters in this tree layout as well as the regular filters. The example I already showed you, the wishlist filter, this is not a special dynamic filter. This is not to do with the tree hierarchy. It's simply all the items that are in my wish list. It's based on the wish list field being set to true. When I click on a heart and it turns red, I'm setting that field to true. It will be displayed in this filter. So you can have a combination of non-dynamic filters and the regular so-called filters and these new dynamic filters that simply create the whole hierarchy for you based on the item data itself. You don't have to create an explicit filter called men and an explicit filter called women. Pepperi will simply go into this main category, great perfumes, and check the subtype and say, okay, there's men, there's women. Now, for perfumes, there's probably not a third option available. I mean, unless you had children, but you know, there's male and female. But if there was, then it would also create that subtype filter automatically. Another filter here that is actually not dynamic is another example is ordered in the last 3 months. These are all the products whose last order date is within the last 3 months. Okay, that's simple. It's a straightforward filter. It's not dynamic. It doesn't have to do with item fields or properties. Okay. I'll give you a second to absorb all of that. Okay, the new filters are not yet generally available. We are rolling them out gradually on an as-needed basis. So if you need this kind of hierarchy, more than 2 levels of filters, the dynamic filter capability, if this is something that will really boost your storefront setup, then let us know. We can move you over to these features. Then again, for some people, it may not make a difference. If you don't have that many items, if you don't have that much subtype and types and kind of, you know, leveled grouping requirement, it won't really make a difference to you because you'll probably have the basic, you know, main category and then second level filters. But if you have the need for dynamic filters because you have lots of items with lots of different subtypes and that are relevant to some brands but not relevant to other, and you need those filters to be dynamic, and you don't want repetitive filters for every brand and then the buyer encountering empty filters, then this will be great for you. Okay, before I go to the back office to show you that filter configuration, I have a poll question that I wanted to ask, which I'll bring up now on the screen, and I'd really appreciate it if I could get 100% response on that poll. That would be great. Are you currently using the Pepperi web storefront? Either yes, the buyers are ordering, we are up and running, regardless of the version, or we have purchased it, but we're still getting things set up, or no, but we are interested in getting started with it. Okay, it's I see that 60% of you are already customers of the storefront, 40% are already up and running, and about 20 are getting things going. That's great to hear. Let's now take a look at the filters in the back office. Just to remind you, okay, all of this information, all this configuration is linked directly from the PowerPoint, which you'll receive at the end of this session. So you'll have links to the how-to, to the knowledge base on all of these topics. Okay, so The new filters are configured here in the settings area under items. If you go to filters, you have a list of all the filters, dynamic filters, regular filters. And another benefit of the new filters is that its filters are defined once in this central area, and then they're associated with as many catalogs as you want. So once you create filters in a, excuse me, once you create the filters, here, you then go into the catalogs area, and even if you're not using multiple catalogs, you need to set them up here in the managing your catalog. Choose one of the catalogs, which filters should be assigned to that catalog. Then when you change the filter, the catalog is automatically updated. So that's different than the way things work today. I'm sure that all of you are aware of that. If you have multiple catalogs, if you change a filter in one catalog, it's not going to change in all the others. So let's dive a bit deeper into filter creation. Let's start by taking a look at a regular filter like the ordered in the last 3 months, okay? So this filter is defined based on a rule here, on a field called the last order date. Last order date is a field that is actually a line item field as opposed to a regular item field, because this field is only available once you're in the order center. So items in the order center are line items. They're no longer just standalone item data. They are line items because they have the potential of being a line item in an order. So they have this field associated with them, last order date. You have a bunch of fields like that, last order date, last order price, last order quantity. So, okay, so I've just put in here in the last 3 months, you have all kinds of date ranges and combinations you can do here, months, weeks, days, etc. So that's a basic filter that I created. See, it's not dynamic. It's not based on a field that is then going to go ahead and propagate the creation of multiple filters. It's just a standalone filter on its own, and you saw it in the order center. Now, in contrast to that, let's look at a dynamic filter. I told you I had 2 levels of dynamic filters. I had the type, and under that I had the subcategory. So the type is actually grouping, it's a dynamic filter, okay, and it's grouping the items by a custom field that I've loaded for my items called product type. For every value of product type for the relevant main category, Pepperi will automatically dynamically create a filter. So just like I showed you in the order center, I had hand cosmetics, so the product type was nail polish, that was created. I had fragrances, the product type was, I'm sorry, I had perfumes, the product type was men or women. So those 2 types were created as filters. In the level below type, I had subcategory. Okay, these names are arbitrary. They're names of my custom fields. Okay, below type, I had subcategory. Subcategory is when I'm grouping the items, again, by a custom field that I've loaded called subcategory. So underneath men and women for perfumes, I had synthetic, I had natural, different types of scents, and those are created based on the item data. Every subcategory value for each brand dynamically generates that filter. Now, once I've created these filters, I also have I have the all filter, which is a standard filter, which will show me all of the products in the tree at the point where I am at in the tree. So I can put the all the way on the top, on the outside. I can put the all underneath type and see all of the types together in that filter. So all I'm doing is showing all of the items. I have no filter rule here. Okay, so keep that in mind, because now when we go to the filter tree, under Manage Catalogs, you'll see where that all filter comes into play. Let's go into the Cosmetics catalog and go to the Filters tab. Now, the Filters tab is different than the Items tab. The items tab is the actual highest level definition of which items belong in this catalog. If you're using only one catalog, you have nothing to do in the items tab because everything will be selected. It's a default catalog, all the items are in there. But you saw that I had a cosmetics and a skincare catalog, so I had like makeup, facial cosmetics, perfumes, things like that are all in the cosmetics catalog. While in the skincare catalog, I had other categories like skin and skincare and professional and so forth. So the items is like the high level definition of, to begin with, which items will I work with in my filters? Okay, which items belong in this catalog? Which items should be exposed in this catalog? And the filters tab, this is a brand new screen for probably all of you. The filters tree is where I take all of the filters that I created and position them in the hierarchy. Okay, so first, let's get out of the way the non-dynamic filters. I had the all, okay, just to remind you, just to reference here, all was the top at the highest level, which is showing me all of the items in all of the main categories. There's no rule, there's no filter on that. It's just all, okay? Next, I have wish list, which is a regular filter just showing me the wish list items. Then again, let's skip down here to the other non-dynamic filters. I have all my items that are part of promotions. I have items ordered in the last 3 months. I have items that are sold in packages. So these are just your basic filters that are showing items that adhere to the criteria defined for these filters. Now getting into the hierarchy, I have the brands. Brands are my main categories. Underneath main category, I have type. But before type, I actually put an all filter because I wanted to see, and I'll go back here to show you the example again, for each main category, when it opens up, it by default opens up on the first filter. I don't want the first filter to be one of the types because then when I click here, I'll see only the face products. I'll see only the lip products. I have nowhere where I could see all of the facial cosmetics or all of the perfumes or all of the hair. So I added the all option right underneath the type so that I could see all of that type before I actually start drilling down into the individual types under that brand. And then I took the subcategory filter over here that I created and I dragged it over. By the way I get the hierarchy layout is really simple. Like I'll show you an example. If I drag over a filter and I want it to be underneath another filter, I just drag it there. Okay, so it's really just like a graphical kind of UI where you're dragging and creating the tree. So underneath type, for items that have a subcategory, the subcategory filter will be created. For example, men and women under perfumes have subcategories, right? Under the hair products, there is no subcategory. It's just the hairstyling and the shampoo. There are just types. Okay, so I hope that kind of gives you a really good understanding of the benefits and the general configuration requirements for dynamic filters. I obviously don't want to spend too much time on this. And also, again, you'll have all the documentation emailed to you. So think about your item structure. And this actually is not such a complicated thing to implement. Really, you just need to move your filters over to the new filters. Okay. I wanted to talk about a couple more of the configurations that I showed you here, like the sorting, the menu, and the catalog views. So let's go back to the studio. And of course, that's all under my transaction type, the transaction type that I've configured for my buyers, my B2B order here. This B2B order. Okay. So of course, the order center views, this is very basic. I don't want to spend the time on it. I've configured the medium view. I've configured the grid view, which you saw. I've configured the item detail page view. So this is view configuration. This is like basic Pepperi configuration. I don't want to spend time on that right now. I wanted to show you the menu options. Okay, you have the order center menu configuration. So I can configure those options there, which if you remember, I put in there just the print preview and my pop-up. So I added that in here to the layout of the menu. If I leave the menu empty, if I delete these guys, you'll see the next time I go into the order, the menu won't even be there. I'll have an even cleaner interface. Okay, so that kind of is in line with our keep it simple strategy. That's the order center menu. The other thing is the order center views menu. Okay, we've really added quite a lot of configuration for every single menu on the order details, on the order center views, lots of configuration. You don't have to use all of it. Okay, remember I've made the medium and grid line views available out of all of the different views in the catalog. Again, if I took out the grid line view, next time I go in, I won't have that menu. I'll just have everything always opening up on medium. Oh, sorry, one more thing I wanted to show you there is the default view option. If you are configuring more than one view, okay, so you can choose which one the user should always be brought to when they enter the order center. It's kind of like forcing them to see this as their default view. Or you can choose last view, which means if they've switched between medium and grid line and they like to stay in grid line, they'll always be brought back to the last view that they were on. Okay, so that's here in the order center views menu configuration. It's kind of just making the experience nicer for the buyer. Okay, making things sensible, not making people feel like, oh, where am I? What view am I on? That can induce some frustration. You want to keep things orderly and logical. Okay, another field up here, for example, you have this total. I've chosen, of course, the logical thing to put here would be the grand total of the order. You know, as you're adding items, you want that to be reflected in the total up here. No one wants to not know how much they're ordering. So that field is over here in the footer configuration. That's the, it's actually called a footer because when you change the, even though it's on the top of the screen, but when I change the size of the screen, you can see, oops, I'm sorry. You can see that it moves down, down here to the footer area. So when the screen is really small, it actually is a footer. Okay. Let's go back to the big screen. So under the footer configuration, you have the order center footer field, and you can choose one field here, right? You can't add more than one. That's the maximum, obviously. Another thing you could choose to put here is actually a custom field. You can create your own custom field, which includes maybe dynamic text, just like you saw here above the order banner area. This is a dynamic text. It changes based on the order total. Maybe you want to notify them of points that they've earned throughout the order that is dependent on the total amount. So as the amount goes up, the points go up. So you can put a whole string here. You know, this is just a short little area because there isn't much to show. But if you were to show more, it would expand and you can put your own custom calculated field there. Okay, next thing I wanted to show you is that order banner. Where do I load that order banner image? So that's here under the transaction details. You have an order banner, and here you choose which fields you want to display in that strip across the top of the order center, how many columns it should take up, the width, the size of the image. Okay, you kind of need to play with that until it looks good. I've added the catalog banner image here. So depending on what catalog I'm in, each one of my catalogs has a banner that's associated with it. It's just a catalog custom field. It's an image field. And so like here, I'm in the cosmetics, so it's showing me the cosmetics banner. Now, actually, let me go out for a second because I want to go, let's say, go into the skincare catalog, and you'll see a different banner there. Okay, so it's a kind of a catalog-based image here. Let's go back to the cosmetics catalog, to the order I started previously. But now it's going to open the order I had started before, the one I was demoing everything on, because it's configured, again, to go to the most recent open order and continue from that point. Okay, good. So by the way, you can see the configuration changes I made have already taken effect. I've removed the grid line option, so there's no menu here. It's kind of a bit cleaner. I've removed the print preview and the promo pop-up, so those two buttons have been removed from here. Okay. So like I said, the configuration, it does allow you to keep it as simple as possible. We have so many options available, but it's meant for you to keep your process simple and clean and select the best combination for your buyers. Okay, time to finally get into the shopping cart. So in the shopping cart, again, views, menus, all of that configuration is available. What you see here is the expanded order header. Okay, or it's actually called a footer, again, because it moves to the bottom of the screen. On the mobile devices, it's at the bottom of the screen. On the web app, it's at the top, but it's the expanded footer. You can see I've put here some account information, the subtotal, the tax. You can put anything you want here. It's an expanded order footer configuration. I also have here in the menu, I have a summary option. This is a default option that's available. And what it does is it actually groups, well, you won't see it too well in this order because I've only ordered from one brand, but it will show you the amount of items and the sum you've ordered from each brand and also from each product type. And I've configured, you can have as many tabs going across here as you want, but I've configured it to show me, okay, I've ordered 10 face items, 1 lip item. I've ordered 11 products from this brand. If you had other brands, the list would go on. So it's a kind of a nice summary for the buyer to take a look at. Okay, this view of the order, of the shopping cart, sorry, is the line view. It's kind of like a nice clean view. You can also have a grid view. I recommend, if you have say very small orders usually and there are not too many lines, just stick to the line view because it's just nicer and cleaner looking. If you have like more than 50 items in an order, then just use the grid view. Typically you have 50 or more items in an order, so use just the grid view because it looks better for a longer list of items. The lines are like thick and they take up more room, so you see less on the screen. Sorry, switch back to lines view. And of course, if you have like hundreds of items in the order, if the buyer is adding lots of little items or just like lots of line items, then you can also add a smart search in the shopping cart. So they can actually say, hey, wait a minute, I want to see, say, all the items that I ordered from a particular brand. They can search for that, and then that'll come up for them, and they can review their order in kind of like a more organized way. So Smart Search is not going to help much if you have typically smaller orders of 10 to 20 lines. If you have 50 or 100 items in an order, Smart Search could come in handy. So you can configure a Smart Search specifically for the shopping cart by brand, by product type, by item description. It's just a faster way for the buyer to be able to kind of scan through their different. Okay. One small note I wanted to make, actually, let's just take a quick look at our checklist here. So we talked about all of these configurations in the order center, all of the configurations in the cart, the summary. Another option I wanted to mention is that you can actually submit the order directly from the order center and totally skip the shopping cart. I don't know how many of you are aware of that option, but you can set your transaction. Let's go back to the order center. So the shopping cart button would actually be the submit button. And then anything you're checking, any business rules you have, if you have the rule engine working there on minimum order amount, say, you can run those rules right here in the order center. For example, if you're checking if the order amount is above $200 or not, pop up a stop condition to block the order, notify the buyer to add more items. All those kind of things you have going for you in your shopping cart will then take place right here in the order center. So if that's something that works for you, very simple to set that up in the transaction settings. Just submit the order straight from here, and this cart button turns to being a submit button. Okay, I'll just quickly show you that. I mean, I'm not going to be able to show you everything I just spoke about in the back office, but I'll quickly show you just how easy it is to do something like that. In the settings tab of the transaction, right here, you have to define if the order center button is actually a shopping cart or if it's kicking off the workflow and doing submitting. So it's either cart or submit, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Okay, so that's basically everything I wanted to say in the shopping cart. Lior, if you have something to add about the cart, feel free to jump in. But we are kind of running short on time. I know I've kept you guys for a while, but I see that everyone is still online. So, you know, it must be must be pretty interesting to you and relevant, which I'm very, very happy to see. Okay, so now I will submit the order. What I'm going to do is just a second. I'm going to reduce some quantity here to see if I can. I want to hit value below $200. Okay, so I'm going to submit the order here. Now, again, part of my workflow, this is basic Pepperi transaction workflow. Your order is below the minimum amount of $200. Please resubmit with total of $200. That's a stop condition. I cannot submit the order. I have to click OK, and then I actually need to go back here and get above the $200 mark. And now, when I submit my order, I have another nice notification. Thanks for ordering. It's branded, it's formatted, it has a nice font color that it's in line with my branding. So this is also something that kind of makes things friendly. The notifications are HTML formattable. Thank you, we appreciate your business. And go back to the home screen. I can view my orders here, my submitted orders, my open orders. Okay, here's the order I just submitted in the activity list, the buyer's activity list. Okay, let's go continue here in the flow. Payments, okay? We can integrate your payment provider into the Pepperi storefront. So I'm going to show you now, I'm just going to play a little video, which is an example of a payment integration we have with authorized.net payment provider. We can integrate with almost any payment provider through the webhooks in the transaction workflow. So let's take a look at how this integrates. Right now, we're still in Pepperi, in a shopping cart, we're checking out. You're being transferred to the payment page, etc. Now, at this point, we are now entering the authorized.net interface. And you can see here that Pepperi takes the account information and the billing information and fills it in. We communicate, we send that to authorized.net, and then the user enters their card number and clicks pay. Okay, so this integration can be done for you by our services department. Okay. One thing I wanted to mention is our activity forms are available in the storefront as well. For example, if you want your buyers to have a kind of contact us form, you can easily build that activity form in Pepperi, position it there on their home screen, add any custom fields that you require, including uploading files if you need them to upload an image, a picture of a product or anything, and then you'll get an email notification with a PDF with the image they uploaded, with their comments, telling you that they're trying to contact you. So let's take a quick look here at my contact form that I built. A basic Pepperi activity form, okay? They can click on Contact Us. They can fill in their contact reason. I've added mine as a predefined drop-down menu list. I'd like to discuss my account, description. They fill in their text. You can upload an image attachment if you need. Okay, just as an example, I'll just upload an image of a product, let's say. Any product here, and then they can send that form to you, and you will be notified by email. Okay, this is again another notification in the workflow, very simple, but branded. It looks uniform with all the rest of the notifications. Your request was sent successfully. We'll respond within 1 business day. Thank you for contacting us. And I will now get an email. Actually, I can show you that email right here. Okay, so when I get that email, I'll show you what it looks like. The PDF file will be attached, and that's just your basic Pepperi activity form with a workflow, with a notification, and an email action sending me the PDF attachment of that activity. Then, of course, you can have a list of all of the contact forms. The buyer can then see all of the contact forms they have sent you, okay, in an activity list, with their comments, with the status. Okay, there we go. I think that's the mail. No, oh, this is actually the branded email invitation. the HTML. Remember before when I had invited a few of those buyers to my storefront. So this is the email that I received with the links to downloading the app, with a link to the storefront, the username, and the password. Yeah, I think this is the, yeah, this is the email notifying me of the contact from the buyer with the PDF, the information that they wrote, and the image. Okay. We're nearing the end here. Stick with me. I hope that you really enjoyed seeing all the options that I presented to you. I know it was a bit dense with information, but again, you'll have the recording, you'll have the documentation to reference. Due to our gradual rolling out process of the new version of the web storefront, and remember, this is not a new version like you saw. This is not some dramatic new version. It just has those extra features and capabilities that you can use. If you want to upgrade to it, let us know. We can switch you over. Everything will work the same. You'll just have the availability of all the new features you saw today to configure at your own pace. So this was a lot of configuration to consider. And actually, if you'd like assistance or for us to configure the storefront for you, then you will be getting a follow-up email from your project manager in your region with suggested configuration service package. So if you've seen this all and you're like, wow, you know, I want this, I want this, I want the new version, I want the new filters, whatever it might be, we are of course very happy to help you, and you will be getting a follow-up email after this webinar within the next couple of days from your area manager. Okay, so Q&A. There were so many questions typed in throughout the session. Leora, thank you so much for keeping tabs on that. Any further questions? Let me take a look here. Maybe there are some questions that are interesting to share with everyone. Leora, are there any questions you encountered throughout the session that you'd like to share?
Mainly people would like to know what version they're on and would like to know how to check what version they're on.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically, I actually, I didn't expose the support tool option, but something that we kind of like to keep internal, but basically just, I'll be happy to let you know. Email me, send me a direct email. If you reply to any of the reminders you got for the webinar, that's my email, meirav.b@pepperi.com. And I will get right back to you with your version. Okay, I see a question, how do we set up the chat function? So the chat function is embedded in your HTML. That HTML header that you're customizing here, okay, this is an HTML code that you're embedding in the Pepperi storefront, and I showed how to upload that HTML file and configure Pepperi to use it. And within that HTML file, you have the code for chat. This is a JavaScript chat that I've embedded into that HTML file. It's dependent on the chat program that you use. This is not a Pepperi function. You need to be subscribed to a chat function and embed it in the HTML file that you're using as the header here. So if you're not subscribed to chat, you first need to kind of buy your chat program, and then you can easily embed it into the HTML. Is there a way to set up quantity minimums? Yeah, definitely. You can set up a minimum quantity is a default field that we have for items. You just need to upload that with your items, map the field minimum quantity. And then in the configuration, here, actually it's right here in the settings tab, okay, of the transaction. Once you upload the field minimum quantity, you can actually set Pepperi to either mark in red or automatically fix the quantity to the next minimum quantity. So for example, if your minimum quantity is 11 for a product, or say 15 for a product, and the user types in 10, it will automatically, if you set it to auto fix, up it to 15. And then in the web storefront, it should pop up like a little pop-up bubble that says minimum quantity equals 15. So the user knows why their quantity was changed. So what you need to do is in your item fields, first make sure you're mapping that value. Okay, that's an interesting question. Can we set the minimum quantity differently by product, by catalog? So you mean the same product could appear in 2 different catalogs and you want a different minimum quantity for each catalog? Right, okay. You can do that. I mean, you'd have to load a user-defined table. You'd have to load a user-defined table with all those references. Like you'd have, you know, a user-defined table is your own data that is indexed by a primary and a secondary key. So you'd have to have like the primary key is the item code, secondary key is the catalog, and then you'd have the value of the minimum quantity for that item when it's in that catalog. And then Pepperi would go and query that table, get the minimum quantity for the catalog. And yeah, you could definitely do that. But then you would not be able to use this out of the box kind of autofix setting. You'd have to write that in a calculated field on your own using the rule engine, because this autofix only works on the minimum quantity field, unless actually you could write to the minimum quantity field. Lior, is that a read-only minimum quantity? Can you grab a value from a user-defined table and then put it into minimum quantity?
No, you'll have to do it in rule engine completely.
Rule engine. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so that's a bit of configuration. You'd need to upload that table, but it's not complex. You know, it's pretty basic. Okay. Is it a problem to do that minimum quantity configuration if you get your items from QuickBooks? Well, it's not a problem. No, I mean, your item data is coming in and then your user-defined tables will be loaded separately and then the calculation will be made.
The only thing is that if you don't have in QuickBooks the relation between the catalog and the minimum quantity of the item in that catalog, if it's not coming automatically from your system, that means you have to manage it by yourself in the Pepperi Studio.
Exactly. Yeah, you would have to load the files. Okay, we can help you with that. Someone is asking, please show us the configuration for the promotions. The promotions actually right now are configured using integration and transaction types that are really behind the scenes. Later this year, we'll be releasing a graphical user interface. So anyone who's a sales manager or a Pepperi administrator, non-technical person can just point and click and set up promotions, packages. Right now, there is no, if you actually need promotions right now, it's possible in the product. As you saw, I did have those promotion items in my catalog where I could choose 3 for a fixed price or choose 5 and then get 1 free. I don't know actually if I showed you those. I had so much to show. I don't think I got to it, but let's take a look, for example, at this polish promo. Okay, so here I have a fixed package and here I have a buy 5, get 1 free package. So these right now are configured kind of in a really behind the scenes technical sort of way. It's not something that you can do on your own until we release the graphical user interface. Okay, so it's telling me I can select any items for 3 items for a fixed price. So I'll select 3 nail polishes, and then when I go to my cart, I'll be charged just the fixed price for those, the 3 for $5. But I can't show that configuration now because it's really something behind the scenes that's not available for everyone to do on their own.
I just would like to add that we do support having the promotions showing only to specific customer groups or customers.
Okay.
Just for the other question by the same
okay.
Same guy.
I see a question, what are the checkout steps for credit card orders? That's the integration with your payment provider. We don't store any payment information on our end. It's all done by contacting the provider using a webhook, using API, it's not done in Pepperi at all. So I pointed that out. When we got out of Pepperi, we were in the authorized.net screens actually submitting the payment. So you need to be signed up with a provider that we can integrate for you with, and that's actually a project that you need to get our support on, our services on. How is the wish list created? There's actually an entire guide on how to upload the data for the wish list in a user-defined table and add the emoji icon. So you'll get that. There's a link to that in the PowerPoint, creating wish lists. Okay. Lots of the things I showed, you'll see once you get the PowerPoint, you'll calm down and you'll see that a lot of the things are very much explained step by step. Okay. Again, thank you very much for joining. We're taking the Pepperi storefront, the web storefront, to a new level, as you can see, and contact us with follow-up questions. You can reply to the follow-up email you'll get from your project manager. Have a great afternoon and hope to see you on our upcoming how-to technical webinars. We are going to be having quite a series of these going on in the first half of the year. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you, Lior. Bye-bye.
Bye.